All right, here we are, another episode. What's up, Chris? How are you, man?
I am good, my friend. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. You know, sitting up here on another day with Corona. Not
Yeah,
personally having Corona, but the world having Corona.
chilling with the Rona, man. We're all just prisoners in our own houses, so to speak, but not really prisoners.
But not really. Yeah.
Yeah, we're free. We're free. Our minds are free to roam. That's something I discovered a long time ago in boot camp. Right, your mind can go anywhere you want it to go. Right.
For me, I've been saying, I think, and we'll get into this of like the psychology and like the hell of your own mind sometimes. And the hell of my own mind, like when I go off the radar, off the deep end, it's way worse than this right now. Like I can handle this. This is fine. You know?
And that's the thing. I think a lot of people create their own hell, right? Because at any situation you go into, I mean, you could look at it like it's the worst thing in the world. I'm lonely. It's raining out. I can't do anything. Or you could grab a good book and you can sit down. You can learn about something. You could get on YouTube. You can exercise in your own house. You can spend time talking with your family. Although that might become a little bit hellish after a while too, right?
I was talking to my wife and my kids. I got two kids and we were sitting at dinner last night, and I have two little boys. I have a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old, and we were talking and we were like, man, if you would have asked, and we were like, how's this been for everyone? Because it's been about a month, right? Like of the social distancing. And if you would have asked me 2 months ago, right? If I had to spend one whole month, I would have been like, oh my God, we're going to kill each other. And we've done a great job, so far. But that's we have a lucky family, right? Like there's no alcohol, there's no abuse, there's no, those people who I'm really feeling for right now, when like school or work or whatever it was the escape of a tyrant in the house.
Yeah. That. And, I have to say this, man. I mean, it's obvious, but I don't think the media is talking enough about the financial implications of this whole thing for a lot of people. I mean, there's so many small businesses that are just not going to open up after this. And there's so many people who are not going to have jobs to go back to. And so one of the things I've been focusing on is just keeping their heads in the right place, trying to help them to see the opportunities in this, because you take a person's livelihood away. That can do so many things to them psychologically.
Yeah, man. And from the small business perspective, I have them, I'm a small business owner. And like, even with this loan that just came through, the PPP loan, which did look very good at, on the front end, because it looked like a grant, but unfortunately, my employees, or right now ex-employees that I've had to furlough originally, they're doing better on unemployment than what I can do for them with this loan.
Yeah,
so like, that was a problem. Come back.
Yep, that is an extenuating circumstance that was actually brought up a few weeks ago. What's his name? Not Mitch McConnell, the other guy. He brought it up, and I mean, the media kind of poo-pooed it at first, and it kind of shot it down. And I mean, that's a really, really important factor. I mean, you take people's incentive away to go to work, then it can ruin a whole lot of things and put a huge dent in the economy.
But for me as the business owner, it's giving me a huge debt, because let's just take an easy number, $500,000, right? Let's say that's what they allowed me to borrow off the PPP loan. Well, if I pay that out to employee, if I have to hire back 75% of my staff, right? Yeah. Well, if 75% of my staff doesn't want to come back, that grant just turned into a fucking loan.
Right.
That I owe now. Right. Like, and I don't know that I want $500,000.
Yeah. There are certain other things you can use it for. I believe you can use it for rent on your facilities.
But but you have to, but for it to be a grant, you have to hire back 75%. You don't, right? I can use it for whatever the fuck I want. Right. Like I can, let's say that number's 500,000, 2.5 times my payroll. Yeah. Right. I can use it for whatever. Yeah. But it's a loan now, not a grant. That's a huge difference. That's a huge difference, right? Now I get it. If now that loan is at 1%. So if you have debt, let's say where, you're paying 5%. Okay. Yeah. You pay off your debt and that makes sense. Right. Because now you took 5% debt and made it 1% debt. I don't have that. Right. Like, so just taking on a loan of 500 grand is,
One thing I would say though, is that interest rate is going to be better than a mortgage, right?
Yes.
So there's a little potential there to use some of that cash to, I think the real estate market's going to open up a little bit as far as things go. Especially down the line, and when people become more unable to pay their mortgages. That's a potential use there. We could brainstorm on that all day.
Yeah. It's scary though, right? It's a scary thing to take on debt right now though, that you don't need. And I see the future of it for sure. Mm-hmm. But all right, let's get off the Rona. Let's
Bye, talk. Rona.
Let's talk you. It's going to go away. So let's make it go away now. So you're in Southern California now. Is that where you grew up? Is that where your life started?
I'm from Connecticut originally, Norwalk, Connecticut, nice little town, about 45 minutes north of New York City. If you take the train, I'm a New Englander at heart. And then, got myself into the Marine Corps when I was 19 years old. I've lived around the country, and then I moved out to California. Honestly, I came out here to work on a PhD. I was doing a doctorate in political science.
Okay. Let's back up a little bit though. What got you from, so you're in Connecticut, you're growing up. What was your childhood like? Like, because, sometimes when people just join the Marine Corps at 19, like, they're not, the Marine Corps is not going after the Harvard political scientists, right? They're going after the little bit, the less likely to succeed maybe.
Yeah. Well,
how do I say it? I don't know if that's the right way to say that.
No,
that wasn't right.
I wouldn't put it like that.
Right.
It's actually difficult to get into the military. You have to take tests. You have to take academic tests called the ASVAB. And the Marine Corps is actually
I knew nothing about the ASVAB until I read Goggins' book.
The Marine Corps is actually pretty selective as far as who it takes. What I would say is what drew me to it. What drew me to that rather than other paths in life. I didn't have a dad growing up. I grew up in a house full of women. I had my mom. She did every single thing she could to get me and my sister to the age of reason. Right. So she worked 3 jobs. She pushed me into different things, but I was kind of a weak kid, and wasn't very athletic. I didn't have a lot of male mentorship in my life. And, one day my mom's a tough Italian woman. She looked at me and she said, "You know what? You're weak. You got to get strong." And so she handed me a $20 bill. She said, she drove me down to the gym. She pushed me in there. She said, "Hey, go learn how to get strong." And so I went into the gym, started working out. And then
how old were you at that point?
I was probably like 12.
Okay.
Around that point. And then she, the next year she knew I was going into high school, and she said, "Chris, you got to get into sports." And I didn't want to go into sports. I didn't want to play football or anything like that. So she heard there were tryouts for football. She literally packed me up into the car. She drove me over to the practice field. She kicked me out of the car and then sped off while tryouts were going on. And so I went and tried, hated it. She made me go back every day. And then finally I started liking it. I started actually enjoying it. And that was like the first kind of male mentorship I ever had. And then I kind of started really enjoying that aspect of it. And I was trying to think about what I was going to do with my life. I couldn't see myself hanging around Norwalk for the rest of my life. There wasn't really anything there for me. So, I decided to join the Marine Corps. That she was not behind. She did not like that whatsoever. She tried to chase me around with a broomstick, break my leg, that kind of stuff. But I ended up joining, and there was a compromise there. So I joined the reserves. Right.
Okay.
I went there, and then I went up to the University of Connecticut, got my education, and was drilling. And then, of course, 9/11 happened. And after 9/11, a lot of reservists were no longer really reservists anymore. We got activated. And at that point, after I once again shoved my 5-foot tall mother off from trying to break my leg, I headed off to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and then we ended up jumping around and ended up spending a few months over there in Iraq in 2003. And then from there,
Chris, how old are you?
I am 40 years old.
All right. This year, or are you going to be 41 this year?
I'm going to be 41 this year.
Right, so you're older. You're 79. I'm 80.
This non-wrinkled specimen of a male is sitting before you, and he is 41 years old. That's ridiculous, right?
Man, I FaceTimed my dad yesterday, my parents, from my mom's the Jew. I think you said you're a fellow Jew, right?
Yep.
So I FaceTimed my mom for Passover, and my dad hadn't shaved or cut his beard. And since this all started, he said he's not doing it. I mean, his thing, his goatee area was just straight gray. And I'd never seen it before. And I was like, shit, man, you're old. Look at you.
That's why I don't have a beard right now, man. Yeah. And, and that's a funny thing. We can get into that later. I actually just found out I'm Jewish. Found out I'm Jewish. And it's a crazy 23andMe story that ended up with turning my whole world upside down. But go ahead. 2003, was in Iraq, came back. I mean, I don't have one of these like combat stories or anything like that. I mean, I can, and I put this up on my About Me page on the website. Like, I was average across the board on everything. Like, wasn't the best Marine, wasn't, anything special or anything like that. But when we got back, the day we got back, Saddam Hussein was captured. That was the day Saddam Hussein was captured. Right. Okay. So I'm like, war's over. I'm going to go get, my ankle fixed. I had to get my ankle reconstructed, got out of the Marine Corps, went to grad school after that at the University of Connecticut using my GI Bill. And then a couple of years later, my unit got sent to Fallujah, and 3 of my friends got killed. And
were you there?
I wasn't there, and that was a big part of it.
Right.
This thing called the Survivors Guild. It put me into a good bit of a depression. I was drinking every day, got into some really horrible things, and wanted out of Connecticut at a certain point. And I got this brochure that said it was UC Santa Barbara, University of California, Santa Barbara. And it's this school on the Pacific Ocean. It looks beautiful, like ridiculous, right?
It's amazing. Yeah. I did a jiu-jitsu tournament there.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's like, if you want to apply to a school like in California with the California stereotype, that's the school. So I applied to the PhD program there, got in there, studied international politics and quantitative methodology, and did that for 4 years, passed my doctoral exams, passed my dissertation prospectus, advanced to candidacy, and then one of my advisors had left. And so I was personal training on the side. When your advisor leaves, when you're a PhD, your advisor is everything. Like, it's everything. That's who's going to help you with your dissertation. That's who's going to get you connections to get a job. And when my advisor left, it was like, all right, that whole thing just kind of crumbled down. And so I had a little bit of money saved up. I'd been personal training on the side, and I got with a friend, and we moved down to Long Beach. We got a warehouse, and we started sticking equipment in there, and that became Metroflex Gym Long Beach. And that's how that gym started.
That's a big switch, man.
Huge. I knew nothing about business. I knew nothing about management. I knew nothing about anything.
I mean, were you in the gym? So you were just in the gym personal training?
I was in the gym personal training. I was writing nutrition programs. I was managing the gym. I was doing the books. I was cleaning the bathrooms. I was managing the front desk. I was organizing the equipment, cleaning the equipment, doing equipment maintenance. The overhead on something like that is pretty big. It's bigger than what you think it would be. Right. And so I spent that 3 years, literally living off of like $500 a month. I told you before we hit record, I made the absolutely genius decision of getting married during that process, which didn't go over well and it ended in divorce. I ended up losing my shares, losing my half of the gym, had no path forward, and basically lived in a car with a couple of garbage bags full of my clothes and my dog, who's right now sitting next to my feet.
What year was that? The car?
This is around 2013, 2014.
Okay. So, right. So, and when did you open Metroflex?
That was 2011. So okay. 2011 was open. So probably around 2014 was when I was living in my car. Yeah.
You living in your car. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. People, so many things to touch on there. First, like the entrepreneurial thing, like when all you do is you like working out, maybe, you like to work out, and people jump into that, and it's just so much more.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Everybody's like, oh man, it's going to be great. I'm going to run a gym. It's going to, people are going to look at me like I'm a god. I'm going to walk around there and I'm just going to work out all day. And it's not, you know what I mean? As a gym owner, it's tough because you see people abusing equipment. You see the gym getting dirty. You see all these things. You see money going out the door. And it was a tough situation to be in, but luckily, I mean, I had some good friends at the time. Mike Rashid, who was somebody I advised on nutrition, CT Fletcher is somebody I advised on nutrition and brought in as trainers at the gym. They were both students. My old training partner, Thad Coleman, and his girlfriend at the time, Liz Friel, who's one of the strongest women in the world. She let me live in their apartment for a bit. And then Mike gave me his old laptop, and he said, listen, dude, you might not be able to do this gym thing, but you're one of the smartest people I've seen on nutrition and training ever. So why don't you start a YouTube channel? So I started a YouTube channel, and I was like, social media, I don't want to post pictures of myself, create videos. What the hell is this?
Right.
And so I was like, I don't have anything to lose though. So why don't I just start doing it? And I started shooting videos on my cell phone, posting them up, working out at Starbucks. And slowly but surely people started contacting me and wanting to get online training. And that's how I built up a good bit of money to get myself out of that situation.
Man, it's just fail your way forward. It sounds like here the whole way.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Big time.
And a lot of struggle, a lot of nothing going right until you just, is what it sounds like to me here, where you just were like, all right. But you took something from each piece there, right? You took something from the Marine Corps, you took something from college, you took something from the failed gym, you took something from everywhere to the point where you were able to like, all right, start to like get a grasp underneath of you, and that's such a hard thing that's such a hard concept for people, right? They want to, especially when they look at social media.
Yeah. And the thing is this, I mean, when you get yourself into a situation like that, it's kind of like being lost in like a thick set of forest, right? Where there's like trees all around you. You don't know which way you're going. Right. And, you feel like you could be surrounded by people, but you'll feel like the loneliest person in the room. And I never had money growing up, never, and, being in that environment where, at the time, a lot of these guys were blowing up big time on social media. They were blowing up big time as fitness personalities. And, like
CT, right? CT's huge now. He's fucking
huge. And when I met him, the first day he walked into Metroflex, the guy had like nothing. All right. He was walking on his way to work, and he just so happened to saunter into the gym. And I looked at him, I was like, whoa, shit, this guy's got the biggest freaking arms I've ever seen in my life. And he was a really, really nice guy. He's like, hey, can I check your gym out? And I was like, awesome. And then, I'm up front, I'm doing a few things, and then I go back and I look at him and I'm like, this guy's preacher curling 90-pound dumbbells in my gym right now, like preacher curling, like with your arm like strict on the thing, had a 90-pound dumbbell in his hand going like this for reps. And I was like, holy
so everyone
shit.
understands you can't do that whole back thing, right?
Right.
That's gone. That like, this is literally your bicep.
Right. And I'm like, where the hell did this guy come from? And he comes back up. He's like, listen, I used to be a big time powerlifter. I was world champion, had a few records in bench press. Right now he was training over at Bally's. He's being a personal trainer there. He hated the job. And he's like, you mind if I come over here and bring some of my clients? And we were like, yeah, awesome. Let's do it. So he came in, and it was a good year or two. People like naturally gravitated toward him in the gym. But then this guy, Arash Babu, who runs a strength project, he saw him and he was like, man, I got to do a video about this guy. And if you ever see that first video, The Strongest Man You Never Heard Of, that was CT's first video. That was like the first video that made him famous. That kind of goes through his whole story. And he's got a amazing story of somebody who just made a comeback. Cause like at 52 years old, he was like widely obscure. Like nobody knew who he was. He was like barely surviving. He had just had open heart surgery, all this stuff. And then, 3 years later, he's one of the most famous people in the fitness industry.
Joe Rogan, bro.
Yeah. Well, he was famous
Joe Rogan, but right, for sure. But Joe Rogan is what really, really, really blew him up. Mm-hmm. Right, like if Joe Rogan sees you and is like, "Damn, that guy's kind of interesting," then he wants you on his podcast. Yeah, there it is. It's done.
Oh yeah, no,
checkmate,
absolutely.
Man. Checkmate. Absolutely. Cha-ching.
Cha-ching.
He makes comedians rich and famous that aren't even funny.
Yeah, absolutely.
Friends,
absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
but yeah, man, and I just went from there, and then I got myself into a better situation, and I was like, well, shit, right now I'm writing programs and I'm helping people get abs and things like that. It was kind of like I got disillusioned from like the whole bodybuilding thing for a while because it started to be about vanity, and kind of looked out at the world, and I started seeing things about veteran suicide and the situations that veterans were going into, and
obviously something that interests you, right? Because you're a vet, and
right,
you're probably still dealing with this trauma of your friends dying, right? When in Fallujah, when you feel like that whole guilt thing, right? And I think a lot of veterans that probably survive, maybe one of the reasons they do go down the route of suicide, depression, alcoholism, and all that is because they have friends that didn't survive.
Well, I think that, and when you're a Lance Corporal in the Marine Corps, which is not a high rank, right? It's an E3. You're in charge of more things than most people that age would be. I'm talking like 19, 20 years old, right? You're in charge of so much, and you're surrounded by people who care about you all the time, even if it's a hard thing, right? Your NCOs, they might bust your balls and stuff, but they care about you. They're looking out for you. Your officers too. And then when you get out and you're in the civilian world, you lose all that, right? You lose all that.
Yeah.
And one of the things about this was that, I'm reading some of the stories of the people who took their own lives, and they're much better men than I was. Way better people than I was. And I was like, well, this has got to stop. And I was looking at, some of the stuff that was being done, and there was two things that was happening. Number one, there was a lot of people in the veteran community who were using comedy, right? And that's awesome. I love comedy. I think everybody deserves a good laugh. There's some sick humor in the veteran community, right? The second thing was raising awareness, right? And the thing about raising awareness is, we need to know it's a problem. But one of the things that was happening was this number 22 was being plastered everywhere, right? Being put up all over the place.
Explain more to me. What's this number 22?
22 veterans a day committing suicide, right? Which is, it's a horrible thing, right? But at the same time, one of the things I've learned from all the PhD work I've done, learning human psychology and things like that, is that you have this concept called social proof. And what social proof says is that if you see somebody else who shares your attributes, right, you are more likely to commit to the actions that person's taking, right? So if, for example, one of the things, if you ever read that book, Influenced by Cialdini, very famous book on psychology. Anybody who's in marketing or sales should read it. But one of the things that he goes over in that book is suicide.
I heard that Corona cough, by the way.
Oh yeah, I totally got it, man. I gotta wear the mask in quarantine. But
so go ahead.
what's it called? The one of the things about that book, he goes through suicide statistics, and he shows that in areas where there's widely publicized suicides, the suicide statistics actually go up. And so in my mind, I was like, all right, we need to change this from we need to stop veterans from killing themselves to we need to get veterans to truly live. And that's how the Warrior Soul podcast was born. And
explain that dichotomy, right? Because it sounds like the same thing almost, like at a layman's ear, right? Like, I need you to stop killing yourself, which means live, right? But you're talking about getting veterans to live. What's that difference?
Well, the difference is this. The difference is between existing and living, right? You can either exist or you can live, right? And if you're just existing, you're kind of taking the world and it's just whatever the world that brings to you, that's what's going to happen. If you're living, you're choosing your course. You're choosing your challenges. You are going after the things you want out of life. And one of the things I say at the beginning of every podcast is this, we're all going to die. And that's a fact, right? Someday we are going to, whether we die right now from COVID-19 or whether we die 40, 50 years from now in our sleep after living a good life, we're all going to die. So we have no real reason to hesitate, right? Fear itself is a liar. If you fear anything, if you have a fear of something that's keeping you from doing what you truly want to do, that's a lie. Because at the end of the day, you're going to stop breathing. Your heart's going to stop. And all you're going to be left with are your regrets. So that's one of the things I try to focus on with the podcast is getting these guys to live lives that they can be proud of after 50 years, getting these guys to reduce the amount of regrets they're going to have.
How do you do that?
Because in one of the things if you ever go to I went on this trip to Greece while I was a PhD student and went to the site of the Oracle at Delphi. Right. And if you know anything about ancient Greek history, Delphi was like the Disneyland of the ancient world. People would come there from Minor Asia. They'd come there from Egypt. They'd come there from the Mediterranean, all around just to hear the Oracle speak and to watch the Pythian games. But if you go there today, it's just a bunch of rocks. Right. We know a lot about Greek history. We know about the 300 Spartans. We know about the philosophers. We know about the famous people. But we don't know much about that guy or girl who was just trying to get by. Right. Trying to make their farm live, trying to be a merchant, trying to raise their kids and things like that. That's lost to history. And for us in this day and age, we are so self-important, right? We worry about bills. We worry about all these little drama things that happen, what our status is on social media, what's going on at work, that kind of stuff. But if you really think about it, 100 years from now, everybody I know, everybody you know is going to be dead. Right. Our kids are going to be either very old or dead. Our grandkids are going to be either very old or dead. So, the chances are, 100 years from now, a lot of people might not know my name. They might not know your name. Right. And so all these things we worry about, they're eventually going to be dust in the wind, just like we will be. So you can't take life and fill it with drama. You only get a set amount of time here. And what you need to do is you need to focus on using this time to live a life that's going to be amazing.
Okay. So now I agree with you, but the argument that I get a lot, okay, is right there when you were talking a second ago, when you were talking about, no one's going to care about us here in 100 years, which is in the blip of time of the earth, absolutely nothing. It's like a fucking millisecond to the earth. Mm-hmm. Right? How do you not go into nihilism there?
How do you not go into nihilism? I mean, the biggest thing I can say about this, because I've been nihilistic in the past, right? Okay. When I was a PhD student, I might have had everything look good on the surface, but I was drinking 7 days a week, womanizing like crazy. And a lot of that was because of what I was learning at the time. In the American academic system, particularly in those circles, you read a lot of Marx, you read a lot of literature that could make you nihilistic, right? And one of the things that I've found is that the way that you stay away from nihilism is through actually developing genuine relationships with other people, right? Actually being in a community, actually talking with people, helping people, and getting that human touch. Because I think far too many people are isolated. And if you go into a situation where you're increasingly isolated and all you're doing is living your life through social media, you're going to become increasingly nihilistic.
Yeah, man. I have Ryan Holiday's book Stillness.
Great book.
Great book. And I was just I'm going through it again and just rereading that chapter on relationships. That little section on relationships and how they are the key, right? Like what makes us not nihilistic is this right here, me and you talking,
right?
And now I know it's not in the email that my team sends out. Like they don't include that Eliot would like to probably keep in contact with you after the podcast, but I would like to, right? When I have a good conversation with somebody that I feel like, damn, all right, that guy, that girl, they get it. That was really cool. I like to keep in contact with them. And that's what keeps me from nihilism. And you just said it.
Right.
Each conversation I have and each person that I meet is so important. And so important because I don't get to do that again. I'll never get to talk to you for a first time again.
Right. No, exactly. And that's the real benefit of podcasting. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
so cool.
I heard that COVID-19 cough. You got it too, man. We're transmitting it through the airwaves over here.
They didn't know that it went through the microphone, through the internet. God damn it.
It's radiated right now. But the one thing I'd say about that, man, is like, you look at what's going on with podcasting right now. I mean, and you probably get the emails. You probably every time you go on social media, there's somebody on there probably telling you how they're going to blow your podcast up, how they're going to turn you into this super entrepreneur. And there's a lot of people out there that think podcasting is an easy road to riches and fame and things like that. And probably both myself and Eliot could tell you, no, it's not. It's a lot of fucking time. It's a lot of work. Sorry if you can't curse here.
You can curse. Oh yeah.
It's fucking hard. It's ridiculously hard. You will spend so much time on this. You'll obsess over the audio. You'll obsess over the guests you bring on. You'll obsess over whether or not your statistics are going up. But here's the thing. You got to stop. For all of you new podcasters who might be listening, you got to stop worrying about that. Right? You got to stop worrying even about the amount of downloads you have, because what the true gift of podcasting is to be able to sit down, have an amazing conversation, and to, even if you're influencing 100, 200, 300, 1,000 people, right? Even if you're doing that, even if you're changing those lives, that is what's important. And I figured that out because I was one of these guys. I was like, oh man, my podcast is never going to blow up. I worked for, you know who Brian Rose of London Real is?
Mm-mm.
He's a huge podcaster. Just got a huge podcast and YouTube guy. He's like the Joe Rogan of the UK. I worked for that show for 3 years, right? I was the lead instructor of their academy, and I learned a lot from him. It was like having a world-class education in podcasting, because I knew nothing about podcasting when I first started. I didn't even know that I needed a microphone, right? If you listen to my first 6 months of audio, it's horrible. Right. And it was ridiculous. I had an interview with Ben Greenfield, one of the most famous trainers in the world. No microphone.
Just sitting there on the iPhone recording.
Yeah. Yep. I was over here. I had pillows around my laptop, and I was speaking into the laptop like that. And, I was, one of the problems was I was comparing myself to Brian Rose, and I was like, oh man, my podcast is never going to blow up. And and this is why I believe in God, and this is why I believe in a higher power, because I got real close to quitting. And then 24 hours later, I get a message from a veteran who was like, your podcast helped me. I was resistant to it at first, but I listened to what you had to say, and you put my life in a better place. And every time I've come close to quitting, I always get a message like that. And that's why I most certainly believe that there's a higher power out there that's guiding us somehow.
Higher power. Yes, definitely. I agree that there's something greater than me that would be very egotistical for me to think otherwise. You know, does it care? I don't know. That's where I go back and forth a lot. You know, that's where I go back and forth a lot on the caring aspect. But as far as what you were saying a second ago, that's the key. Like you're talking about the key, and I got the same information that you just gave. I got it from somebody. You know, I met with him, and his name's Adam Bornstein, and he was the behind the scenes of Tim Ferriss's podcast, and Tim Ferriss has one of the biggest in the whole world, right? Huge. And he was like, look, man, he's like, you know, Tim Ferriss is mad that he's not Joe Rogan. Right. You know, because like, you know, Tim Ferriss gets 14 million downloads a month, and he's mad that he's not Rogan over there with 200 million. Like, he's like, what the fuck, man? You know? So get over the stats, right? Get over the stats. Talk to one person. Go make one person's life different. Figure out who your avatar is. Who's the one person's life who you're going to change. And that's what you did. Right. And that's what that message was. That message that you changed that guy's life. So now you start to ask yourself, well, what's a fucking life worth? Is it worth 2 hours of my day sitting here figuring this shit out? Well, yeah, it's probably fucking worth that. You know, it's probably worth that. If I get a message every so often, even if you never get another one again, you got the one.
Right. And that's the thing, man. That's what gets me up in the morning. That's what I mean, I've got a day job. I work my butt off, but my passion is bringing that knowledge to the veteran community and changing the veteran. Because I believe, in my heart, I believe that the veteran community is the sleeping giant in this country, right? And one of the affirmations I tell myself before I start every show is that I truly believe that there's a future congressman, a future senator, a future president of the United States listening to my show. I tell myself that every time before I hit record, right? Before I was coming on here, I was saying that same thing. There's probably somebody who is going to be of importance listening to Eliot's show. So I want to bring my best game. I want to bring my best value. And that's how I show up. You know,
it's our privilege, right? It's our privilege that anybody would listen to our show. It's not their privilege that we're talking to them, you know? Right. And that mentality has made me a better everything, you know, especially when it comes to other people, like a teacher. You know, a teacher of martial arts, a teacher of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like, man, I've been super lucky. I've accomplished a ton in martial arts. But it's not the student's privilege to be learning from me. It's mine to be able to give it to be able, that they would spend an hour of their day with me. That is the biggest privilege in the world, because they're giving away their biggest asset, time. You know, time. Exactly. You don't get more.
Exactly. And I'll tell you another thing a lot of podcasters don't understand is that, you know, your relationship with your guest is important, but it's not as important as your relationship with your audience. Yeah. And because I see a lot of podcasters, they go into like hero worship of the people they bring on, and like they'll try to get guests, they'll try to do this, they'll try to do that. But a lot of times, like, you'll bring on guests who've done, you know, 300 podcast episodes, right? And if it's somebody who's done that, you got to be very creative in ensuring that episode is not going to be like the million other episodes the guy did, right?
Dude, that was my worst thing, fighting. I hated it. When I was fighting, that was like the fight. I'm sorry, fight week wasn't the worst thing, but fight week, talking to the reporters, how do you feel? And then you answer the question. Are you ready? Yes, you answer the question. And then you go to the next interview. How do you feel? Are you ready? Yeah. How was camp? How's your weight cut? Dude, fuck off. Come up with, I just answered that. Why, you know, like, exactly. and like that guy, that's Ariel Hawani over there. He's the biggest guy in the game, right? So everyone's listening to his show for how's my weight cut? How's my blah, 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 right? How was camp? You better come up with something interesting why people are going to click your show, you know? So yeah, like you have no direction. I think sometimes people with podcasting, in my opinion, and maybe, I mean, look, I'm not a huge podcaster. They have this thing that they have to talk about. And I just don't do that personally. Like, I'm just like, okay, there's a message, which is your message, go through the fire, fail and fail and fail and fail. And then, oh my God, look, here we are. but that's that. But how we get there, I think is just random, and how you and I got there today.
What I like about your show, because I've obviously listened to quite a bit of it before coming on here.
Okay.
You have genuine conversations with people, right? You bring up genuine points. And I've been on other shows and it's like they create this kind of firing squad question thing where they're asking you the question, then you give the answer, then you ask. I like the platform, the format that you create, right? Where it's real genuine conversation. We have a rapport with each other. We're actually showing sides of ourselves that maybe the audience hadn't seen before, right? And it's real, genuine human interaction, even though we're talking in plastic boxes that are transmitting COVID-19 into our lungs right now.
Shit. I forgot. Yeah, man, I don't like interviewing people. I like talking to people.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like that. I don't like that. Here's my sheet. And my sheet has your information for the intro that I'll write. Mm-hmm. And other than that, I don't like to just ask questions. I like to talk and respond.
Yeah, man. And I think that's important. That's important. It's because there's got to be that human interaction. Otherwise, these words are going directly into people's ears right now through a set of earbuds. Right.
Well, it means we're listening to each other, right?
Right.
Right. I don't if you're just asking questions, then you're just asking questions so that the person gives a response and then you don't care. Yeah. Right. Okay, I hit the question. Great. Thank you very much. I'll never talk to you again and goodbye. Oh no, I will talk to you one more time. When the podcast comes out, I'm going to ask you to share it. But after that, I'll never fucking talk to you again.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And I just don't think that's the way to do it. I think you have to listen to what someone says and then ask and then talk about that. But that's just my 2 cents. And I'm no supreme podcaster. So
no, exactly. I think you got it down, man. I think you got it down.
So so you said you have a day job. What's your day job, by the way?
I sell anchors.
Okay. What do you mean? What's anchors?
Like boat anchors.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, man. And the reason why I'm actually very passionate about it. So I still train. I have a select clientele. I've got 5 clients around the world. Right. And the reason why I pulled back from that is because what I found myself was doing, and a lot of people think, oh, if you love fitness, you should get into the fitness industry. Well, see yourself sitting down, looking over 100 different programs and 100 different spreadsheets of people's nutrition and see how much you're going to be actually doing fitness when you're doing that. Right. So I keep a select clientele there. I run a clothing company for Warrior Soul. I have a mastermind, but that's not, it's not something that's I'm going to get rich off of or pay the bills or anything like that. So I got this day job. And the reason why I'm really passionate about it, especially right now, is because it's entirely manufactured in America. It's entirely from every part of the anchor, the anodizing on it, all that. It's entirely manufactured in America. And I love the leadership team there. I love the company. I love what they're doing. I love how they're innovating. And it's fascinating to me. And so, and here's the deal. If it was a massive company where, everything was okay, we don't even have to try, I wouldn't like that. I like the fight. It's we're at war right now because we've got competitors who are doing different things with their manufacturing, right? They're doing it cheaply overseas and things like that. And, for us, it's we've got to figure out this thing. And I love it. It's going to war every day. It's like being a general.
Fuck yeah. It keeps you in that fight, keeps you in that figuring out, it keeps you in that innovation, right?
Exactly.
Hell yeah. I mean, I got a day job too. I love my day job too, I love this and I love my day job. So, God, I had a point to something that you said, God damn it. And it slipped my mind right as you were saying it. I don't know, man. See the concussions, right?
I'm good, man. It's all good. I've probably got the same thing going on.
For sure.
Dude, do you want to hear about how I found out I was Jewish?
Yes. Tell me. Talk to me.
All right. So a year ago on my 40th birthday, right? My girlfriend had bought me a 23andMe kit for Christmas because I have one of the things I have ulcerative colitis, an autoimmune disease that's almost killed me a few times, right? And this past year,
so you're full on quarantined right now, then.
Pretty much the medications I'm on have fully taken down my immune system.
Okay.
I have to go for infusions because last year it got real bad. Like if you don't know what ulcerative colitis is, it's where your immune system starts attacking your intestinal tract. And I've had the disease for 12 years. I go into flare-ups. Like you start internally bleeding. You have to run to the bathroom, 40, 50 times a day with the bloody shits. Like friggin' you get up from the toilet bowl and it's like completely covered with blood. And I was anemic. I lost 40 pounds. And as a bodybuilder, that's another reason why I pulled back from bodybuilding. I mean, I can't step on stage at 150 pounds. I was lean, right?
Yeah.
Like, I got down
to be
like,
lean in 250. Yeah.
Yeah. I got down to 155 pounds from 215.
Yeah.
Right. And it was killing everything. I would be in jujitsu practice, almost like falling over, like dizzy, shit like that. And so finally, like, went to the hospital. They're like, listen, you got to go on these medications or we're going to pull your colon. Like they're going to I was on with Greg from Victory MMA. Greg, oh man, I forget his last name. Awesome guy. But he has the same thing, and they actually had to pull his colon, and they give him a J pouch, and I was trying to keep that from happening to me, so I had to do these infusions. But I wanted to find out more about my background because I grew up thinking I was Italian and German, and the story my mom gave me, she told me that my father was a German immigrant, that he was an alcoholic who died in a halfway house. She told me that my grandparents were Nazis, right? I don't know why my mom told me this. That was her ex-husband, right? But I get this 23andMe kit back, and it says you're 48% Jewish and 39% Italian, and the rest is North African Arab.
Well, how can they tell a religion?
It's genetic. You actually have Jewish blood in you. Ashkenazi Jewish. It's called, there's two tribes, the Sephardic and then the Ashkenazi tribe.
Okay.
Right. And they're different DNA. So the Ashkenazi tribe, what happened was they immigrated from Israel back in the day. In the medieval times, they settled around northern Poland. And what happened was a lot of times they would.
That's got to be the one that I am too then. Because
most Jews in America are Ashkenazi. Sephardics are more like Sephardics stayed in Israel for a while. Right. So they're more like around Israel, around Egypt and things like that. But in the Ashkenazi tribe, there's a lot of intermarriage that happened back in medieval times. And so there's a lot of genetic problems, and we're prone to ulcerative colitis. We're prone to colon cancer. We're prone to a lot of different things.
Dude, my dad's black too, man. So I got all this shit, bro. You should fuck. When if I make it to 60, I'm gonna be taking pills all day long.
Yeah, you got to take care of your health, man. You got to. So I get this thing back. It says and I had no idea. So I called my mom up. I'm like, Mom, did you know my father was Jewish? And she's like, No, I didn't know that. Yeah, maybe he kept it a secret, right? And I'm thinking, like in my mind, because of the story I grew up, like I thought my grandparents were Nazis. Like I thought my grandfather actually served in the SS, and I'm like, you guilt like crazy. You know what I mean? Like I actually went to a rabbi and I was like, what can I do to atone for this? What can I do to like make this better? And 6 months pass. And then I get another note from 23andMe. It says, you have a new DNA relative. And being an Ashkenazi Jew, like I have 2,300 cousins around the United States, right? It's just a lot of us are interrelated. So, but this one said I had a half sister. And I was like, what?
This is on so your dad's sister, your dad's daughter.
Right. This happened on my 40th birthday. And so I get that and I'm like, what the hell? So we got on the phone and I'm like, hey, what's going on? She's like, yeah, it's kind of a surprise. I flew out to meet her, met her in person. We get the story straight. All right. So her mom had recently died 2 years earlier. Her dad, she brought this to him. He's like, I have no idea. Those tests are probably wrong. And so he doesn't know this, but apparently what happened when I finally brought the evidence to my mother, she's like, listen, it was back in the 1970s. Me and my husband had gotten a divorce. I really wanted a baby. And so what I did was in the 1970s, it wasn't, acceptable for women to do this. I went to a doctor in New York City. He was a famous fertility doctor, and he was helping single women who wanted babies to get pregnant. And I was a sperm donor baby. And so
she has no clue who your dad is.
She had no clue. She had no clue. We found him.
Okay.
We found out who he was, and obviously I don't want to bother him because he didn't sign up for that shit. Right.
Yeah.
But just for my knowledge, I wanted to know. And, what happened was, we had some geneticists who were actually in our family tree, and we showed up on the family tree on ancestry.com. And, obviously Jews are very obsessive about their family trees. And they're like, who the hell is this Italian guy and this Irish girl who's on their family tree? And so they reached out to us. One of them was a geneticist. And then he did the research. We got it down to 3 people. And then we just got confirmation that it was one of them.
Damn, dude. That must have been a life fuck a little bit, right? Like you thought your dad bounced on you.
When I was a kid, it was rough because I grew up with this story that he was an alcoholic, that he bounced, that he was a horrible person. And I thought I was genetically destined to become that for a while.
Right.
That's when I was an alcoholic, when I was drinking my ass off, when I could hardly stand. I told myself that story.
How else could I be anything else, right? My dad was. I'm just following in his footsteps.
Right. Exactly.
Holy shit.
And then when I found out about this, I immediately forgave my mom. Right. Because my mom, she did everything she possibly could to bring me and my sister to the age of reason.
So your sister, where's her dad? Same thing?
He's still there. And that's why I don't bring up her name. We don't publicly interact because her dad still doesn't know. Her mom wanted to have a baby and they both wanted to have a baby. They were very Catholic, and artificial insemination was very much against the Catholic religion.
So your mom did the same thing with your sister too?
My mom, I have a sister. Yep. She did the same thing with my sister. So yeah, me and my sister grew up thinking we were full blooded.
And you're not.
And we're
Got
not.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But my mom, it brought a bunch of gratitude over me because my mom really wanted me. Like she did everything she could to bring me into this world. She did everything she could to bring me to the age of reason. And then, I was like, and it just made me realize all those lies I was telling myself about limitation, about where I was going, they were all lies. Everything was lie.
But it was truth at first. So, right? Like it was definite truth. And now, the story we tell ourselves, right?
Right. I made it my reality. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing I want to convey to everybody through this story is that 99% of the things you're telling yourself are lies, right? They're lies. And maybe, there could be good lies and there could be bad lies. Maybe you can bend the truth in favor of your story just as easily as you could bend it toward negativity. And maybe you need to do that a little more to serve yourself rather than putting yourself into these situations where, you become negative and you can't see the way forward.
Man, that's an amazing story and an amazing ending there.
Yeah.
Right? Of how to do it. So, man, thanks for sharing that. That was a really personal story. You did not you don't have to do that. And man, and the forgiveness that you have for your mom too is an amazing part of that story.
Yeah. And my mom is an amazing woman and, she's been the greatest influence on my life. And, I love her to death. And honestly, man, this is the first time I've ever brought it up in that detail in public. Like I haven't even talked about it on my own podcast. So, you guys got a treat here.
Man, that was I really appreciate it, man. Thank you. Yeah. I will tell everyone where they can reach you, man. Tell everyone where to find your podcasts, where they can find you on social media, stuff like that.
Yeah. My podcast, you can find me on all the platforms, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. The main website's up at www.warriorsoulagoge, that's AGOGE.com. And my main social media platform is the Instagram. So if you want to see lovely pictures of myself and of all the other things that come up, you can head over to my Instagram account at Warrior Soul Goji. Connect with me on Twitter at Warrior Soul Gear. And I'm an open book. So anytime you guys have questions about anything like that, just let me know.
Oh, yeah, man. All right, everyone. As always, you go out there and find your power, your unique power, not somebody else's. As I always say with every guest, not mine, not Chris's. You have a power. Go out there, discover that power.